Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you with one of my favorite Age of Apocalypse series, Generation Next, #1. So this is the Earth 295 version of the Generation X team. And, is this very much a 180 to what we're used to, which was the whole point of this event, which I really, really enjoy. And I love this cover. Just kind of gives you a sense of everybody involved in the book just right off the bat. So we open up on an explosion. And this is Chamber. I know we're all used to seeing the psionic energy firing through his chest, but I like how they kind of redesigned him for this book. And I sort of wish they would have somehow implemented it into the 616 universe, but nonetheless, here we are opening, and he's introducing himself through the point of the narrator. And just so y'all know, this book came out March 1995. It's such a beautiful, beautiful page there. Before we get any further into all of this, Stan Lee presents a bold new chapter in the history of the X-Men, Generation Next in From the Top. Created by Chris Bachalo and Scott Liddell. Bachalo doing the art, Liddell doing the writing. Inker, Mark Buckingham. Colors, Steve Buccoletto. Electric Crayon. Letters, Starking's Comicraft, and editor was Bob Harris. They come to find out that they're training. And so you see Chamber just kind of talking to, in a sense, this is kind of like their danger room. So it looks like he's talking to himself, but he's actually talking to someone. We'll get into that in a minute. Now, what I like is he says how there's upsides to having power. He goes, my psionic power. Growing up, Poppy told me, lad, you got enough energy inside your frame to level your majesty's entire royal fleet. Didn't know what he was on about. Probably some kind of reference to some political structure, what existed before now. So we see him using his psionic energy, and this is how he's able to contain it now instead of it being all over his face and chest, which is really cool how they sort of worked that out in a sense. But yeah, you can see that he does not know anything about a lot about his old history. But what I like is he says, before it all came down to a nasty piece of a work, name of Apocalypse being in charge of most everything. Everything that is, except us, the X-Men. However, you come to find out that this is who he's talking to, and her name is Claudia. Now, Claudia, this is kind of a weird muck, which we'll get into in a minute. You see Jono gets distracted, and what I like is here he actually fests up and says, I forget that none of us are full-time X-Men yet. Magneto wouldn't allow it. Buckethead's a little bit strict when it comes to that. So, even though he has this power, he admits that we're all a little green around the collar, so we need to be seasoned just a little bit. So the person that attacks him, Husk, Paige Gerthy. He's like, probably because deep down I don't always agree with Rasputin's survivalist dogma. Shucks, here I was hoping it was because you found me sexy, as all get out, Dumpling. And he's thinking, well, perhaps that too. Paige Gerthy, you're without a doubt the most mind-mangling, self-absorbed woman I've ever met. But in a sexy way, right? So you come to find out that Chamber and Husk in this universe are a couple, so awesome. And before anything else, here comes Mondo. And Mondo's like sick and tired of risking Mondo's life while you two suck face. So you remember how Mondo was more kind of a happy-go-lucky guy in the 616 universe? Not so much here. He's a little intense. They all are. So you see that, as I said, Paige and Chamber are a couple. Let me get past the ads. Oh my goodness. But look at how this is not your regular training, danger room training. Paige actually puts a knife to Mondo's throat, and it looks like they're going to kill each other. So that's just the ruthlessness here. I mean, no one's the same. This is supposed to be a very hard universe. And what I like is Jono actually says the point of this training, I forget, is it's kill or be killed, because that's what the Age of Apocalypse is. Now, before they can keep going on, I like this foreboding, where everybody's just like, oh boy. And then we say, bad news, Torkovich. Means the teacher is in. And again, this, you'd think this is a lot of reading, but Bacalo has a way of moving the narrative along with the artwork. This is just Chambers setting up who everybody is. So he's talking about how Peter and his brother Mikhail were heroes of Russia before Apocalypse took over, and then Mikhail joined as one of the horsemen and helped with the slaughtering of his home nation. And so Colossus offered his skills to Magneto. So it kind of at least gives you a little bit of backstory there. Very, very good work. Now, Peter actually, Chambers says, is everything you can see here, you can tell this is not a happy man. Now, from the Claremont era forward, Colossus has always been sort of a tragic hero, but he's always had this sense of hope about him. I mean, yeah, he gave his life to, in the Legacy virus, Ileana died at the hands of the techno-organic virus, and it made him leave to Magneto. I'm talking about 616 stuff here. But here, he's just very, very brutal in the way he's training his students. He's teaching them to be devious and murderous, because that's what this world is. And so Paige jumps on him, morphs, because she's an omnimorph. She dumps a type of acid on him, and Jono here's talking about how he smells burning metal. So while he's doing that, someone comes out of his back, and she goes, golly, Dumpling, this ain't hardly nothing. I ain't even gotten warmed up yet. And so we see this head. She goes, that's a matter of perspective, hayseed, from where I stand. You're a memory. And she just smacks Paige. So this character here, this is Kitty Pryde, or Catherine Pryde. This is Shadowcat. And notice these things on her wrists. Notice the ferocity, the way she fights. She goes, you sloppy. You've earned some private tutoring. And just look at the way she's slashing into Paige. I mean, okay, so we get a Monty Python thing where it says it's only a flesh wound. But look at how there's no mercy, no quarter given. Or how Paige actually morphs her hand into this diamond rough, tries to snag her. He goes, you megamorphs are so overconfident. Though it might have worked against someone who wasn't intangible most of the time. And just kicks her in the face. Now, the reason I said notice the claws, notice the fighting style. Back in the day, Claremont wrote a miniseries in the 616 universe called Kitty Pryde and Wolverine. And that's where Kitty is possessed by Ogun. I forget. But he makes her his puppet. And she learns, I forget what type of fighting style. I don't know if it's some sort of not karate. I don't know what style. But anyway. So in that universe, that's where Kitty kind of became a ninja in a sense. And Wolverine took her under his wing and trained her. And that's why Kitty always looks up to Logan. So I'm wondering, in this twisted universe, Scott Liddell, in a subtle way here to just kind of introduce her, is showing how she took Logan's ferocity before he left the X-Men, which would have been a great series, but I know that in the Age of Apocalypse they had to get a lot of stuff done. But that would have been great to see that twisted version in this universe before Apocalypse fully took over. And you can just see how she's not the sweet little kitty that we all know. This is a terrifying sociopath. And before she can finish Kitty off, because she even says, she goes, how do you think you're ever going to learn? You think the Sentinels are going to go easy on you? Or the flat scans? Back in the day, they referred to humans as flat scans. So, for those of you that are newer readers, or the bad seeds, I'm only doing this for your own good. But before she can gut Paige, something leaps out of the trees. And you come to find out that this is Skin. So Angelo's always been one of my favorite. Him and Chamber are like my top two favorite Generation X characters alongside Jubilee and Husk. I liked M and Everett, but I don't know. They just didn't really stand out as much as like Skin did because he was just all personality, kind of like how Beast was. And so Angelo here is talking about how he saved Paige. But what he does is instead, Paige goes to attack Kitty. And Skin's like, give me a sec to get out of the way. Nah. Not the most loyal of friends, eh? But Chica, I helped you. Hey Gray, I didn't ask for your help. Even if it did give me a chance to find a bile pattern Shadowcat can't face through. See y'all on the other side. Here now? So, everyone's supposed to be thinking that the training's done. So, this character here, Claudia, she's going time. And the students are starting to gang up on the teachers. This is Vicente, I think is how you say his name. Vicente in the Earth 295 is one of M-Plate's allies. So he's a villain. So seeing him on the other side here, interesting. But yeah, like I say, you can tell that these are not your normal mutants. Now what I like here, voice cracks and thunders. Enough. And so again, we get back to Jono. And what I like is, here's a bloke who's managed through sheer force of will to gather some 24 mutants around him. He's saying, if he's decided to make the trip through 2 hot zones on the prairie, you can be pretty sure it ain't just a check on the grains, meaning Generation Next. And so he's like, Colossus, Shadowcat, I'd like a word with you too. And what I like is even though Kitty seems like a sociopath, she actually stutters. She goes, yes, sir. You can kind of tell that she's a little, what do you call that word? Not terrified, intimidated by Magneto because of what he is. Now, Magneto chastised them, saying these mutants are supposed to be trained. And Peter is just saying, I don't appreciate you coming in here and undermining my authority. And Magneto says, your authority, Peter. And what will your authority be worth if it turns out that this Bishop is telling the truth? So check out X-Men Alpha to see how Bishop ties into this. So this is how the whole kind of story I try to get back to normal is because Bishop has a vision of the past. Magneto believes him. And so he sends out a team, which we'll be getting into in the other books. So like Excalibur, Nightcrawler has a mission. Gambit and the Externals, which was X-Force, have a mission, etc., so forth. Here, Magneto's setting up the next part, saying we need to travel back in time. But Kitty just says, but Apocalypse had all the chronovariant mutants killed, specifically to prevent time travel. So I like that they use that in the dialogue to say, well, why don't somebody just time travel? Well, right there, Apocalypse did that to prevent it. Now, Claudia, who's also known as Know-It-All in this, is talking about how she's scanning for any type of people. So she goes through all the different chronovariants that were killed. Now, if y'all can help me figure out who these 616 universe people are, so like Eden Fox T, not sure. And then this non-designate deceased, and then Kitty says, imagine dying without a name. If you know who that's supposed to be, let me know. Or this Gallo or Flashback. Now, with all this said, they're looking at all the chronovariants that were killed. Peter gets a surprise, which is what pushes the plot. Now, what surprise is that? I'd highly suggest that you guys pick up Generation Next and read this comic series. It is absolutely phenomenal. And I don't know, I like how Buccalo took his creation, Buccalo and Lobdell, excuse me. And he took their creation and just flipped it on its head and made it this nightmare bizarro verse, which is what the Age of Apocalypse is. And it just makes for some great reading and awesome moments. And I love the design they gave Colossus, just this big, burling mass. And the same thing with Kitty. I mean, we're used to this, Sprite and how she was always, kind of the lovable one of the group. No, she's a hellion on wheels, and I think a lot of that has to be done being trained by Weapon X, not Wolverine in this universe. So yeah, again, if you guys have enjoyed this, please make sure to support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, we'd really appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. You can come to the channel, and we'd love to have a dialogue and hear your feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you all so much for stopping by. I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.